The AlphaTheta Slab has been out for almost 2 months now, and it's created a lot of buzz in the DJ and production communities. As the first controller made especially for Serato Studio, you've probably seen the specs on this amazing device, but today I'm going to share with you my favorite features for using it to create remixes, using it while DJing, and one bonus way of using it that I haven't seen anyone do just yet. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, I'm DJ Nonay, and I'm a DJ, producer, and overall creative person. And I love to play with gear that helps me do my job better as a mobile DJ. Huge shout out to Tom and the KPODJ team for sending me over this slab, and be sure to check out their website for VIP discounts that rival other online retailers. So when I first pulled the AlphaTheta Slab out the box, the first thing I noticed was just how well constructed this controller is. It's made of plastic, yes, but it's very solid and it feels like it'll hold up well over time. These MPC style pads have a really nice feel to them. These encoder knobs are amazing too because they're infinity and they also push in. Really nice features on it. And I really appreciate the minimalist layout of how the buttons are, the pads, and all the different sections on the device. It really makes it a lot less intimidating to want to learn when the layout isn't overly complicated. One of the most unique parts of this controller though is this left section where it has this control dial as well as this record button and this play button. Now, in my current workflow with how I use Serato Studio, I'm always hitting that space bar to stop and pause and start a track. And also using the undo shortcut, just you name it. So having this section right there at my disposal, I knew I was gonna love it. So of course, these were my first impressions when I first pulled it out the box. But when I plugged it into Serato Studio, that's when I found out everything that this controller is about. Now first, using this with Serato Studio. Now one thing that I'll say for sure is you really have to get familiar with the device and its layout, the shift functions, and all of that to really appreciate everything that this slab has to offer. Now today, I'm not gonna do a deep dive into every function of this device, but I'm just gonna focus on the features that really change the game with my workflow. Now first is the slice edit feature. And the way you access this is you hit the dial mode button until you see slice edit. Now what does it do? Now, usually the first step that I do when I'm creating a remix or an edit, when I'm bringing in a sample of some sort, is I'll set all my cue points that I want to use throughout the course of the remix. Now, the way you do this without Serato Slab is you just go over to your sample and you just scroll until you find a point in the audio that you know you want to use, and you can either hit your keyboard button that corresponds, or you can just use your mouse to tap and set the cue point. Now, as you can see, sometimes the cue point doesn't land exactly where you want it to land. And the reason for this is because of the quantize feature. As you can see, it's set to 1/16. So what that means is it's going to align to the beat grid of the track, and it's going to go to the nearest 16th note for the track. It's very technical, but just know that sometimes it won't land exactly where you want it to land because of that. To remedy this, you just turn quantize off, and it lands exactly where you want it to land. But when it's time to fine tune exactly where that cue point lands, that's where slice edit mode comes in. Now, here's what it does. Now, when you hit your cue point that you've set, you can go ahead and use the dial when it's set to slice edit mode and just nudge exactly where that cue point lands. It really makes it a smooth experience to refine exactly where your cue points are. And another thing that it does is when you hold the shift button, you can also set the end point of your cue point. So it really makes it easy to fine tune exactly how your cue points sound. Next is trigger mode. Now, I feel like this is the bread and butter of what the Serato Slab is all about. Trigger mode is very simple. It allows you to use these 16 pads to trigger exactly the cue points that you set. And it's not just for samples. You can also use it to trigger notes on your drum kit. So as you can see, when I switch to the drum kit, my buttons changed. And I can then just trigger my drum kit. And the beauty of having 16 big tangible buttons that you can use to trigger your cue points just is a beautiful thing. It makes things so much easier than either clicking with your mouse or using a keyboard shortcut. And the really fun part of using these pads is you can test out ideas before you actually commit to recording an idea. So let's go ahead and demonstrate what that would look like. So here I'm going to hit play, and another shortcut that you can be aware of is you hit the shift button and hit record, and it turns your metronome on and off. So in that way, you can hear the click of the tempo of your track. So let's go ahead and just test out an idea. We're going to hit play. I'm just playing around and doing whatever, but let's go ahead and record this idea. So it's just that easy to go ahead and record your ideas with the Serato Slab. Now, say you make a mistake and you really don't like what you recorded. The next feature that I really love is the clear sequence feature. And what you do with this is you hit Shift and clear sequence, and it completely wipes the slate clean so you can go ahead and re-record your idea. Hit record again. Very simple. And along that same vein, another shortcut that I use pretty often is Control Z or undo. But as you can see on the slab, you just have a simple button where you can hit undo and it will undo your mistakes. So these are some really helpful features for that. Now, the next feature I like is the step sequence. Now, I don't use this very often, but it's very helpful to create like a standard pattern for, say, like your kick or your snare when you don't want it to have that human feel. So just to show what that looks like, we're going to hit this piano mode button and then we hit Shift and it takes us to the sequencer. So in this, when you hit play, you can see the notes land exactly on each 16 of these pads. So it's pretty straightforward. You can see how it works. And another really powerful feature of the step sequencer is when you hold the notes and turn the dial, it actually allows you to nudge exactly where that note lands to give it a little bit more of a human feel. So I really love that feature. Now, next, stems. A lot of you familiar with the feature in Serato DJ that allows you to turn on and off the vocals, the melody, the bass, and the drums of a specific song. Serato Studio is no different. Now, the way that you access these stems is you tap the encoder mode button and you should see deck stems. But the really beautiful thing about the slab is that you can use these encoder knobs to control the EQ of each of these stems. So as you can see, when I'm turning this encoder knob, you see the melody getting louder, and you can also turn a stem on and off by tapping it. So you see the drums came back, but you can then turn the drums down a little bit, turn them up a little bit. Let's see how that sounds. Yeah, I just really love that part. Now there's a lot more that these encoders can do, and I really love how much you can control with them. So say as an example, you want to adjust the EQ, say you want to adjust the volume of a sample, you just go ahead and hit encoder mode until you see deck EQ, and then you can turn the volume up and down, you can adjust the highs, you can adjust the mids, you can adjust the lows, and then not only that, if you hit Shift and go to the pad encoder mode, it then allows you to fine tune each of the samples that you bring in. So say you want to adjust the attack to where that it's a little bit more soft. It really makes you feel like you're fine tuning every part of your track like an instrument. Now, one last seemingly insignificant feature is that you can mute and unmute your decks. I really love this because, again, it allows you to play with ideas for how your track will be arranged in the final version. So let's go ahead and undo. So to demonstrate this, let's hit deck select and let's go to that next drum kit. Now, in order to mute that drum kit, you hold the deck select button and then you hold Shift and it mutes that track. Now I'll show you the beauty of this in just a moment. So as you can see, being able to mute and unmute every part of your track really can play around with the arrangement and then figure out how you want to arrange your track later. And then as a bonus, if you want to change your scenes, it's very similar to the deck select. You hold the scene select button and you can go to each of your respective scenes. So I have one here, and then I have one here. Now, another use for the slab is to use it as an auxiliary device with Serato DJ Pro. Now, I plan to use the slab more as a production tool, and I don't really plan to take it out on my mobile gigs, but it really does have some useful features, especially for people that have mixers and setups that have less than 8 cue points. Now, for my at-home DJ setup, I use 2 Reloop turntables and the Pioneer S11 mixer. Now, just to be honest, because my mixer has a lot of the same features that the slab offers, I primarily use that as my workhorse. But there is some beauty in having redundancy with some of the features that you use. Now, with my mobile setup, I use a Pioneer Rev 7. And one of the things I really like about the Rev 7 is that it not only has those buttons in the center where the crossfader is, but it also has buttons for cue points above each of the decks. Some might think that's redundant, but the way that I use it is that I'll use those buttons that are horizontal to trigger cue points while using the center cue point buttons to trigger stems. And the way that this comes in handy is that I'll be playing a track, I might be teasing in the drums of the next song, and then when it's time to drop the part where everybody recognizes, I'll simultaneously turn all the stems back on and trigger exactly the cue point where people will get a reaction. And it usually has really great results. Now, for the S11 mixer, it doesn't have 2 sets of cue point buttons, and you could set up MIDI remappings on your mixer or just use your keyboard to trigger cue points while turning your stems on and off. But just the workflow of moving your hands back and forth might not be as smooth. But having that slab right there really just makes things a lot easier. Another benefit to using this with Serato DJ is that you have another place that you can control stems. Now, on Serato hardware, most devices now that are most up to date allow you to control stems with the different cue point buttons, but not all of them allow you to control stem EQ, which is a newer feature of Serato DJ Pro. And unfortunately, the S11 mixer does not natively control the stem EQ. However, when you have the Serato Slab, it allows you not only to turn your cue points on and off with your mixer, but it allows you to control the EQ of your stems with these encoder knobs. Really amazing to have both features at your disposal. So overall, the Slab is definitely a great choice if you want a secondary device that you can use to trigger cue points, samples, control your stems, and so much more. Now, personally, I'll only be using the Slab with my at-home setup, and you can kind of see how I'll use it in future DJ set videos to come. Now, just to go over what the Slab is not. Now, the Slab is not a 100% replacement for a mouse and keyboard. There's just some things that you cannot do with the Slab, including searching for a track. You can definitely scroll through your library, but you of course need your keyboard to type and search for a specific sample. And also, even though the Slab has a song scrub feature with one of those dial modes, I just find it quicker to use my mouse to scroll through and find exactly where I'm trying to go. Now, next, it's not a piano replacement. Now, it does have a piano mode where you can use the 16 pads to trigger different notes, but the piano was my first instrument, and I just really prefer the traditional layout of a piano using a MIDI keyboard. Now, the last thing that the Slab is not, it does not control Serato hex effects just yet. Now, hopefully Serato will come out with some updates very soon that allow you to use these knobs and buttons to control hex effects. But as of right now, it doesn't do that. But hopefully they'll make that update soon. But next, I've got one more trick up my sleeve. Now, here's where you can take the Slab into uncharted territory. I haven't seen anyone using it in this way just yet. Now, many of you are familiar with Ableton Live, and it's a software that a lot of professionals use in a live performance setting. Now, while Serato Studio isn't designed specifically to be used in this way, why can't we use a Slab as a performance controller in the same way? Now, to turn the Slab into a performance device, here's what I do. The first thing you'll need to do is open Serato Studio as well as Serato DJ Pro. One thing to note is that the Slab will not work with older versions of Serato DJ Pro. Next, you're going to check the following settings in Serato Studio. You're going to hit the settings button, go to the audio tab, and ensure that the audio output is set to your mixer. Since I'm using an S11, I'm setting the audio output to channels 1 and 2, which is equivalent to the left deck. Next, you'll need to go to the MIDI tab and make sure your mixer is disabled in Serato Studio so it doesn't cause any weird conflicts. One last good thing to note is that when Serato Studio is open at the same time as Serato DJ Pro and you have your Slab connected to your computer, that Serato Studio takes priority in controlling the slab, so you shouldn't have to worry about any MIDI conflicts within Serato DJ Pro. The next step is you're going to load up your project. Now, Ableton Live uses scenes, which are horizontal rows in session view that allow you to launch multiple clips across different tracks at the same time. And in Serato Studio, the equivalent of that is using scenes. So this is the feature we're going to take advantage of in the following demo. Check out this short demo performance of a remix that I made and look at the captions to fully understand what I'm doing. Feel free to pause if you need to.
Let's get it all in perspective. Now let's get it all in perspective. All in perspective.
So there you have it. There's the bonus way of using the Slab as a performance controller. Now, what's my verdict on the AlphaTheta Slab? I score it a 9.5 out of 10. It's definitely a highly useful device that you can use to speed up your workflow with production and with DJing, but there are a few gaps that hopefully they'll fill very soon. Now, if you're interested in picking up an AlphaTheta Slab for yourself, go ahead and hit that link in the description to get it from KPODJ, and that link will also help to support this channel so it can continue to grow. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next review.